This museum was built to honor the legacy that is the Mosaic Templars of America, an organization that was started by two gentlemen who were previously enslaved. But what they really wanted to do was empower community to build an organization that thought to make sure that people had a space where they felt welcomed. Talk a little bit about your brand and how you're an entrepreneur that in a lot of ways are doing the same thing.
Very much so. Hello, everyone. Y'all can hear me okay? Great. So I am April Showers. I'm from South Central Los Angeles, born and raised. Let me let all y'all know there are no riots in South Central Los Angeles or right now, LA, okay? I just want to get that cleared, get that out there. Okay, so anyways, I am born and raised in Southern California. I am, like you heard, a mother of two amazing boys. One is at LSU and the other just finished his first year in high school.
LSU?
And I had two businesses at the time. I was an insurance agent, I still am. I have a State Farm, and then I'm a licensed real estate broker, and a friend kept referring to me as a unicorn. So the reason why I created Afro Unicorn, like you were saying, was after realizing the unicorn didn't look like me and I wanted one that looked like me, but it was more so I wanted to inspire and to give a platform for other entrepreneurs to let them know that they too had a unicorn within them, that knowing that believing in yourself is the greatest superpower of all. And so I created the Afro Unicorn platform really to just elevate other entrepreneurs. So if you were wearing our shirt, I would say, hey, check out Key rocking an Afro Unicorn shirt, but did you know she has this business, and make sure you tap in with her and make sure you support her, because I saw that there was a need for us to elevate each other. So very similar, to give that space and that opportunity to be seen.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've been watching you and I see what you're doing. This authenticity didn't just start with Afro Unicorn. And as a matter of fact, in terms of entrepreneurship, it didn't just start with Afro Unicorn. Talk to us a little bit about your beginnings and the process. You know, a lot of times people see you and we see now that you're global and you took off, but there was a seed in the ground that was being cultivated before then. Talk to us about that process and kind of where you started.
The entrepreneurial spirit was on me very young age. I mean, I had my own babysitting company when I was 13 years old. Yeah, because you're 14, right? Okay, so I was 13, 14. I had flyers made. I was going out saying, do you want date night? I'll come over and watch your kids. So yeah, I was babysitting as a gig, 13, 14 years old. And then by 14, I was working for the council member at the time. And I worked with his PR team. So I learned PR and marketing at a very early age. And then I went into youth programs like Yes to Jobs, which is youth in the entertainment summer internship. So I worked for A&M Records in Hollywood in the international marketing department at age 17. At age 17, I had my own talk show, LA Youth Speaks Out. I've had this entrepreneurial spirit at a very, very young age. So part of the initiative and what I'm doing with Afro Unicorn is I'm also nurturing the young entrepreneurs. I have a YouTube show called the Miss April's Crown and Bookstore, where the kids in the community, they own their shops and they just come to me to get advice and to guide them throughout their entrepreneurship journey. I think it's very, very important that we show and teach entrepreneurship at a very young age. And people used to ask me when they would interview me, they would say, well, where did you get it from? Because both my parents worked for the state of California. So I really couldn't figure it out until one day I thought about it. My father, although he worked for the state of California, he was a mechanic. And every Saturday morning, cars would be lined up in the driveway as he would work on the vehicle. So I believe that spirit was planted then. Like, I saw him hustling every Saturday.
How have you remained true to the original version of what you set out to do? Because a lot of entrepreneurs have a vision, have an idea, and they're being pulled in 1,000 different ways. They're watching other content creators. They're looking at what's going viral. People are telling them if you change it just a little bit, it'll blow up. And you talked about having a community. How do you stay true to the original version of what you feel is the authentic version of your business and your mission?
Very interesting question, and it's something that I'm in the middle of right now, because Afro Unicorn was originally created as a women's empowerment brand. My cousin who's here today, who is the project manager, she told me before I launched, she was like, "Hey, April, kids really like unicorns." I was like, "Okay, what's your point?" They're not unicorns. It's like, yeah, but they, I think they like to have parties, and I'm a boy mom, so I didn't know nothing about no unicorns before. When my friend would call me a unicorn, I would tell him, like, "Why do you keep calling me that?" And he called me that for 2 years before I literally would acknowledge the fact that I was a unicorn, because I didn't know what unicorns were. But she kept telling me, like, "I think this will be something great for kids." And I'm like, my friend called me unicorn because I'm raising 2 boys. I'm a single mom. I have these 2 businesses. What have these kids done? They are not unicorns. But the marketing guy I was working with sent me a mock-up image of a little girl. She's like 5 years old, with her hands out, with an Afro puff and one of my unicorns on her shirt. And I saw the vision. I was like, okay, we can bring them in, but they're going to be Afro Unicorns in training. Like, I'm not giving them the official title. No, this is for real. Like, if you go back to 2019, you will see they were called Afro Unicorns in training. And then maybe like, COVID time, so maybe like 9-10 months after I had launched. And I launched with girl shirts, but it wasn't my focal point, right? But this one video, these 2 girls, their mother brought them Afro Unicorn shirts, and they opened the package, never seen the image before. They were jumping up and down and screaming, and their eyes were just bright. And when I saw that, I just started to cry, and I was like, oh my, like, I get it now. And I'm happy that I didn't miss that moment to know that this was part of the plan, right? So Walmart, they found me, by the way. It was a little girl wearing an Afro Unicorn shirt, and her video did go viral. Someone walked by her and said, "I love your hair." And she said, "Thank you, it's an Afro." And so Walmart said that they saw the community inside the comments that were like, "That's Afro Unicorn, that's Afro Unicorn's baby." And so then they brought me into the retailer as a licensed character brand next to Mickey Mouse, Elmo, all of the different characters, and they made us a kids character brand.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you. But that goes to your question, you said, because people will come and shift. And how do you stay to the core of your business? So it has been very challenging, because we went from being this adult brand with celebrities like Tiffany Haddish, Alicia Keys, Sherry Shepherd, all of them, Phaedra Parr, all of them rocking and supporting the Afro Unicorn movement because we stood for this women's empowerment movement, to now being a kids brand. So part of the things that I did, knowing, okay, so that little girl that jumped up and down, I found out she was 10 years old, but she was also a 3D toy maker. So I was like, okay, so they're not just in training, they're doing it. And I started thinking about my whole journey, that I was 13, 14 years old. So I immediately dropped the in training from them. And I said, let me start nurturing these young entrepreneurs, because that's still the core vision. That's the core mission, is entrepreneurship. So that's how I was able to tie it back in. And then developing the Miss April's Crown and bookstore, and bringing that piece of the business back in. So it's just not a beautiful, fun, fantasy character. There's a real meaning behind Afro Unicorn, and it's all stemmed into belief. So I am definitely navigating and trying to, make sure, as much as they want to just pull me to just being a character brand, that I keep the core values and the mission of Afro Unicorn in place.
Why do you think it's so important for your brand to remember your self-worth and for affirmations?
Because we live in a world where we're constantly being told we're not. So if I have to create space to remind us who we are. And if I have a platform, I'm going to forever remind us of our greatness, of our worth, our value. It's so important that we see ourselves in film, that we see ourselves in our toys, we see ourselves everywhere we go. And that part is never going away. By the way, please subscribe to the Afro Unicorn TV on YouTube so you can see the Miss April's Crown and Bookstore.
So I have 2 more questions for April, and then we have to let her go. I don't want to, though. Tell us what's next. What are the next things that you have planned for Afro Unicorn? What can we expect? Give us a little sneak peek, too. Tell us something that nobody else knows. Give us a little bit of tea.
Tea. Okay, well, we're an entertainment brand now, so we are definitely finalizing our animation deal. So you'll be able to one day see that, not one day, soon see the cartoon version of Afro Unicorn. We're also working on, after that's done, we'll be working on a stage play, like a Broadway show type. And then also, I mean, it's not that grand and that big, but I'm getting ready to drop a cohort, a 5-week program for 7 young entrepreneurs between 7 and 17, where I will give them a small grant to participate. I want 5 who already have a business and 2 who want a business. And we're going to go through the Miss April's Crown and Bookstore together and go through the lessons, and they're going to learn, and they're going to have their own network. It's important. I recently launched my own retreat called the Manifest Magic Retreat, and we're going to have our second one in October. And what I gathered from the very first one was that the women just appreciated the network, just having someone you can talk to, because when you're at a certain level in your business journey, not everyone understands, especially if a lot of your friends are 9 to 5. They don't get that if you don't work, if you don't move, you're not gonna get paid. So those conversations hit a little bit different. So being in a very intimate setting with people that have the same mindset as you, it just pushes you to the next level. So I want to do that for our kids. I'm building their own little community.
What I love about you, the connection that I sense immediately in terms of the work that we do here, it very much reminds me of the foundation of how the Mosaic Templars started, that they saw a need to fill a void. And I always feel like if you do what you love and if you feel like what you're called to do, it'll never feel like work. And it's not always about necessarily money, right, although money is important.
It is important.
And so in that thought, in that vein, in that spirit, number one, I want to say, please let people know how they can connect with you when you share with us your YouTube. But what are other ways, mediums, platforms that people can use to connect with you? And then the final question is a really good one. It is a final thought that I want you to close us out with, which is finish this phrase.
Okay.
My superpower is.
I'm believing in myself. Sorry. Yeah, believing in myself. Okay, so I have a website. I am aprilshowers.com, and on that website, I have a free collective called the Magic Manifestor Makers. And in that collective, you get free information, free videos, free resource guides, interviews. I just want to share everything that I'm receiving out here, because the problem that we have is not the talent. We are extremely talented. It's the lack of knowledge. No one's talking. No one's giving us the information. So I want to be that vessel to be able to get the information. There's so many rooms that I walk into where no one looks like me in the room. So I'm pulling that information I'm getting from the room, and the goal is to bring it back. So please sign up to my free collective. You can find me on Instagram at @GotAprilShowers, got milk, GOT, got April Showers. And yeah, shop everything Afro Unicorn. You see Afro Unicorn, buy it. Point blank period.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss April Showers.